Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I am finally back outdoors. I had quite the hike in today because they closed the main trailhead again, but I wanted to finally get to my first impressions of this sucker. This is a meaty knife. It is the Summit Knives El Capitan, made by Fox Knives. I was looking a little bit more into Summit Knives. They haven't posted on their Instagram in forever. I don't know what's going on there, but this knife came out and I remember seeing it come out, talked about this in my unboxing, and then it just like fizzled. I never saw anybody get one. I never saw anything really happen with it. And then my new friend Ed, who will be linked down below, his YouTube channel is called Hero Sticks. He's got a couple of videos up now. He's putting out content and doing a good job with it. He got curious about this knife and decided to order basically one of each version of the knife. He's got an unboxing up showing all of them, and yeah, his curiosity led to him getting a few of them, and then he offered to loan me one for a review. So something's walking up here. I feel like I'm always looking over my back in this canyon, but I've seen enough large game up here to feel like I need to look. Anyways, this knife is here courtesy of Hero Sticks, so he'll be linked down below. And it's not something that I think I would have purchased on my own. It's a little bit gigantic for my tastes, and it doesn't on the surface really like speak to me all that much, but it is really intriguing. And it's been interesting to me to see how many of my viewers have been intrigued by it and want to know more about it, have asked me questions about it, and my unboxing video got way more views right off the bat than I thought that it would, for this being kind of an unknown knife. So apparently it's intriguing to a number of people. But first impressions, I'm a little mixed on it. So let's go over kind of my normal stuff, but first let's talk materials. So this is an aluminum frame lock. So the scales and the back spacer, both show side, lock side scales, are going to be aluminum. It's got a pretty standard position and style of clip. It's not deep carry or anything. We do have an over travel stop with a stainless steel lock insert, so it's not aluminum on steel, which is good. And then the blade is this massive slab of M390. It is not only quite a long blade, this is, I think, approaching 4 inches, so it's a long blade, but something's knocking rubble down. It's also just remarkably tall this way. It is huge. So I think that might be part of why so many people are compelled by it, is just this blade is kind of a spectacle. Before I had this knife arrive, I hadn't really looked that deeply into it, and I was not expecting it to be this big. It is gigantic, just really a massive, massive knife. That being said, the way that the handle is shaped, it fits my hand better than I would think a knife of this size would. And you can see it's got this kind of like crescent with a little bit of a bulge in the center. So it's got this spot that kind of fills out the middle of your hand, a swell in the back and a swell in the front, so you don't feel like you're going to come forward or backward off of it. And it fills the hand nicely. It's a fairly slim profile for how tall it is. So yeah, I feel like I get a better purchase and grip and feeling of security on it than I kind of thought I would, or than I normally get on knives that are just smooth aluminum like this. So it's interesting to me in a number of reasons. So let's talk about the things that I like so far, and then the things that I'm finding I'm not totally sold on, and we'll see if any of those change by the time I'm ready to do my full review, because this is just a first impressions. So I'm also going to try to keep it relatively brief. I've got a few videos to film while I'm up here today, and daylight is waning. So the things I like: ergos are better than I expected. Not the best ergonomic knife I've ever experienced, but they're good ergos. The other things that I like, I guess, would kind of just be like the presence of the knife, if that makes sense. Like the size and the kind of like panache of it being this beastly of a thing. It has a certain character to it. I don't know. I dig something about it. I also like the blade grind. I like that because it's so tall with this full flat grind, you're able to get pretty thin down behind the edge. And the edge that's on it is very nice. This is a good, sharp factory edge. So this thing, for being so kind of beastly and overbuilt, actually lends itself to be a really good slicer because of that height. And the cutting tasks I've done with it so far, done very well for slicing. The things that I'm not so sold on, the overall profile of the knife in pocket, it's fairly slim, so that's fine. But the size of this thing, it kind of feels like I'm carrying a dinner plate in my pocket. It's just really tall and wide. So it's very noticeable. It's like this big fin in my pocket. And I don't know, the skinnier a knife is this way, the easier it is in pocket. There's a number of factors, but this just being so big this way, it's very noticeable. That said, it's not super heavy. Being aluminum, and relatively slim. This knife is lighter than I would expect it to be, looking at its size in person. Like each time that I pick it up, I'm like, oh, it's lighter than I thought it was going to be just looking at it. So it's not so much the weight for carry, it's really just the size. The other thing that I'm not crazy about is, so the action is okay. You can see I love spidey flicking knives. I do it all the time. For this one, I have to use a little wrist. And I think the real kind of problem with it is, even past the detent, it's just still really stiff. And that's not because the pivot is stiff, it's because this lock bar is really intensely strong. I think if I had to guess what happened, if you look at the way the lock bar is cut right here, it just still seems really thick where it's cut. I don't know. I don't engineer knives. I haven't built a folding knife. I haven't built any knives. So I don't want to guess too heavily on what's causing that, but I assume it's just how thick that is. There's just so much tension on this lock bar, to the point where, like, to get in there and disengage it, this is the most difficult frame lock to disengage that I've ever felt. So it's really stiff, and I don't think that's the kind of thing that's going to, like, break in, because that's just the strength of the material there. Yeah, it's an interesting lock in how stiff it is. Like, even the way that it locks open, it's really strong. The lockup itself is good. There's no blade play, which is nice. I like how sturdy it feels, but I've felt knives every bit as sturdy that didn't have lock bars that overly strong. So that's something that every time I pick up the knife and start playing with it, immediately I just don't like that lock bar and how intense it is. Yeah, there's a couple of spots on here, like jimping wise, that I would omit. The jimping here on the spine is a little bit harsh for my taste, but it's not a deal breaker. It's not a real issue for me. Like I said, ergos are nice. It's good in a couple of different grips. Pretty much every grip, actually, except for this one's not so good, but who's doing that all that much anyways? I don't know. I'm a little bit torn on this knife. I'm glad I'm getting to check it out, and I've been enjoying it so far, but it's not carrying that pleasantly because it's so big. I don't really see it also as being like an outdoor knife. Oftentimes I have an easier time forgiving knives that are like really overbuilt, knives that like folders that I'd be comfortable bringing out here if it was my only knife on me. Like right now, the knife that's in my pocket and I'm about to do my full review on is the 80-20. And this knife is big for me. This is a chunk of knife. But when you look at it next to this knife, it kind of, let me see if I can do this in a better way, it kind of makes the 80-20 look small, which is hilarious because the 80-20 is about as big as I ever want to go. This knife just feels a little bit unnecessarily large to me. Maybe I'm missing the point of it. Maybe this is like supposed to be like a good food prep knife or something, and I'm not really an expert on like food prep knives. Being named the El Capitan, I feel like it should make a lot of sense being out in the wilderness. If you're going to be named after one of the mountain features in a national park, I don't know. I don't see this being that like suited for me, but I think it speaks to a lot of people. And like I said in the beginning, it kind of speaks to me in a little bit of a way. Like, there are knives that have less wrong with them that I like less than these. That have more right with them, I guess would be the easier way to say that with that. That have more features that agree with me that I like less than this one. Like, I like this one for some reason, and I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. It's well made. There's no like fatal flaw to this knife. The lock bar is too strong and it doesn't carry all that great compared to a lot of other knives that I would see as being as or more capable than this knife. But it has some kind of quality to it. I don't know. It's interesting. So I guess that'll be my first impressions, because I got a lot more to get to while I'm up here. But thank you guys for checking it out with me. There will be a full review to come on this one. Again, Hero Sticks will be linked down below. Check out his channel. Subscribe to him if you're into knife content. He's new at it, and he's doing a great job. Let's support the dude. All right. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you soon.